Hey YouTube, in today's video I'm going to be reviewing my 2021 Transition Sentinel, and within my review I'm going to be talking about my likes and dislikes of the bike, and within the likes and dislikes I'll be talking about how the bike handles and how it feels and my overall review of owning this bike for the past 2 years. Starting off with the likes, the first thing I'd like to talk about is when I started riding this bike 2 years ago, the first thing I noticed from coming from a full-size enduro bike was that how well it can pedal, and I think because of the travel numbers of 150, 160, it gets relatively close to an enduro bike, and you would think it would probably climb like an enduro bike. For reference, I had a YT Capra before owning this bike, and that bike I definitely noticed how much more of a struggle it was to climb that bike. But with this bike, you don't really lose that much climbing ability over, like, say, a trail bike of 140, 150. So I think that's something that's pretty notable is how well this bike climbs. Also, something that I liked was how progressive the rear end of the bike was. It's pretty progressive compared to other mountain bikes on the market, and it's quite noticeable how bottomless the bike feels when taking it on tougher, harder terrain. The progressivity really activates and helps because on this bike I mainly got it for the purpose of riding it on blue trails and then also on double black trails. I wanted something that could do pretty much all around, and you'll notice when riding on blue trails that you don't really lose too much of the feeling of the trail. It's not really wallowed out like how it may be in bigger enduro bikes. You'll still have a good time on blue trails, but then also this bike can also do like double black trails, which is perfect for my needs. And an example of this could be when I took it up to North Star for the weekend. North Star is pretty rowdy and can be pretty rocky. But it is very different to my natural or to my home trails. So having this bike really helped in doing it all for the most part. Another quality that I liked is the frame quality of the carbon models. Since this was my first carbon bike, I was pretty worried about cracking the carbon, or if I got in a bad crash, if the carbon would break. But for the most part, for within the 2 years of owning the bike, I've not had any problems with carbon. It's been pretty good. At North Star, I did have a pretty bad crash, which resulted in me spraining my wrists, and my bike was thrown around in the rocks, and I was almost certain that when I checked my bike, I would find a crack within the carbon, but luckily I was only finding like little bits of paint chipping, which is pretty normal since this bike is prone to paint chips, but overall the carbon has been fine. For a quick bike check, I am running the RockShox Super Deluxe Ultimate coil in the rear, 350-pound spring. I have the STFU chain silencers, which are super useful. Going to the front, I'm running P&W bars, the alloy version, great bars. I'm running also a DD stem, using the original Fox 36 with the mudguard. For wheels, I'm running i9 Hydras with TR37 rims. And then I have this attachment on my bike, the Topeak Ninja Master. I think it's the PT30. Super useful tool, definitely recommend. And then going back to the rear, I have SRAM, I have X01 cassette and derailleur, and then XX1 chain, the carbon cranks that came with the bike, and yeah, that's pretty much my bike breakdown. For the dislikes, I would say there are not many, but I think one that stands out is I wish they would have put a plastic protector on the loam shelf as they do with, I believe the new Norco Optic has one, but I think that would have been nice. Protecting the loam shelf would be good because there can be a lot of debris that builds up there, and then you get rocks and debris, and that kind of chips the paint, especially Transition being known for chipping their paint quite easily. I put some PPF within the loam shelf, but even then I still noticed that there is quite a bit of chipping. So I wish maybe in future models Transition would put some type of plastic there to protect it from getting a bunch of dirt and debris. Another dislike that I think I found is that when you're coming from an aluminum frame, this bike can be quite stiff. And especially since this bike is somewhat marketed as an enduro bike, I would say you don't get the benefit of the plushness of an enduro bike. It is still relatively plush compared to a trail bike, but what I find is sometimes I'll be bouncing around within rock gardens and it kind of struggles in keeping a straight line, and that's mainly due to maybe not having enough travel, but that's just something that I noticed, is that this bike is it's meant for a smooth rider, and an example that I would give is it's kind of like racing a Hellcat versus like a Porsche. A Porsche, you get a smooth operation, you get that smooth driving experience, where compared to a Hellcat, you're going to get that raw power, as where like I think you might get that with a full enduro bike. The Sentinel is definitely for like a smooth rider, but if you do really want to like just plow through everything, I would recommend you get the Spire, which is the bump up from this bike, and I think that you'll definitely get that raw ability to just smash through rock gardens. Thank you for watching my review, and if you like the video, please leave a like and comment.